Hello friends, this is Rahul Prasad here. Welcome to my channel. Today my topic is about lipids. So, as you are aware that our diet majorly consists of the main nutritional components like carbohydrates, fats, proteins, vitamins and minerals. Out of which vitamins and minerals just act as a cofactors or the catalyst to carry out the metabolic reactions in a very smooth way. Carbohydrates upon digestion, they are broken down to very smaller particles which is called as glucose, which undergoes metabolism and yields as much as 3.8 kilocalories of energy per gram. That is energy in the form of ATP, which is stored in the mitochondria. Now, in the similar way, the proteins are broken down into very simpler form that is called as the amino acids. And the proteins, after getting metabolized, they yield as much as 5 kilocalories of energy per gram. In the similar way, the fats or lipids, they are also broken down to very simpler forms which is called as the fatty acids and glycerol. So upon metabolism, the fats yields as high as 9 kilocalories of energy per gram. So this is the importance of fats or lipids. So lipids are synonymous with the fats, and let us understand what exactly are the lipids. Lipids are nothing but they are the macro biomolecules or the heterogeneous compounds which are actually the esters of fatty acids or the fatty acid containing groups along with the alcohol groups. They are practically insoluble in water, but they can be easily dissolved or be made soluble in the non-polar solvents called as the chloroform, ether, etc. These lipids mainly act as the storage component of the human body, and they also helps in signaling. Apart from that, they also form the structural components of the biomembranes. And furthermore, the lipids also act as the thermal insulators in the subcutaneous tissues. So, lipids are classified into two basic categories. First is the simple lipids and second is the complex lipids. Simple lipids. Simple lipids are simply the esters of the fatty acids or the fatty acid containing group, and example may be the fats, oils, waxes, etc. Complex lipids. Complex lipids are basically the esters of fatty acid containing groups along with the alcohol and the fatty acid group. Example could be the glycolipids, example could be the phospholipids. If it contains a nitrogen containing group, then it is called as the glycerophospholipids. If it contains a sphingosine, then it is called the sphingospholipids. If a complex phospholipid contains a carbohydrate moiety, then it is called as the glycolipids. So, when we understand that the lipids are basically insoluble in water or the aqueous medium, then how it is going to be transported in the human body, because each and every cell of my body requires lipids because they serve as the structural components of the biomembranes and also act as the cushioning or the insulators, thermal insulators. So how it is going to be carried in our blood plasma? So here comes the role of lipoproteins. What is lipoprotein? Lipoproteins basically is the macromolecular complexes of lipids plus proteins, which means here comes the role of protein, wherein the protein act as a carrier or the media through which the lipid will be transported in the human blood plasma. Lipoproteins have the core, which consists majorly of the varied proportions of triglycerides and the cholesterol esters. Now, the core consists of the tightly packed structure, and the outer membrane of the lipoprotein majorly consists of phospholipids. What are phospholipids? Phospholipids have the polar heads and the non-polar tail. The polar head consists of the phosphate group, which is highly charged, and they are oriented towards the aqueous medium, that is towards the watery medium or the extracellular fluid. Whereas the non-polar tails, they are pointed or oriented towards the core of the lipids. Now, on the outer membrane of the lipoprotein, there are different kind of proteins, which is called as the apolipoproteins. There are different types of apolipoproteins, and they differ in their functions as well. What are apolipoproteins? Apolipoproteins are the basically the protein which are present on the surface or the outer layer of the lipoproteins. Example could be apolipoprotein A1, A2, which are basically present on the surface of the HDL cholesterol, high density lipoprotein cholesterols. Another form of lipoproteins could be apolipoprotein B48 and B100. Apolipoprotein B100 are present on the surface of VLDL, that is very low density, density lipoproteins, and on the surface of chylomicrons, that is the exogenous source of the triglycerides, the dietary sources of triglycerides. On the surface of chylomicrons, they have the truncated portion of the ApoB100, that is the ApoB48. So these lipoproteins like ApoB48 present on the surface of chylomicrons. Both VLDL and chylomicrons both are the type of lipoproteins which are rich in triglycerides, but they are poor in cholesterol. Yet another type of lipoprotein, apolipoprotein, which is called as the apolipoprotein C2 and C3 are also present on the surface of VLDL and chylomicrons. Now, C2 and C3, both kind of apolipoproteins, determines the rate of triglyceride hydrolysis. Apolipoprotein C2 is basically the cofactor for an enzyme which is called as the lipoprotein lipase, and they determine the rate at which the triglycerides will be get converted into the fatty acids. Whereas on the contrary, apolipoprotein C3 is responsible for delaying the triglyceride clearance from the human bloodstream. Now, apolipoprotein B are generally atherogenic in nature, so they should be immediately cleared off from the bloodstream. That's why the chylomicron remnants or the chylomicrons on the surface of which the apolipoprotein B48 or B100 is present, they need to be immediately cleared off from the bloodstream uh, into the liver where they are destroyed. Now, yet another form of apolipoprotein, that is apolipoprotein E, is also present, and this apolipoprotein is responsible for clearing the chylomicron remnants. They are cleared off into the liver where especially the apolipoprotein E receptors are present over the surface of liver. So we will understand that apolipoprotein A1 and A2, which are present on the surface of HDL cholesterols, they are good in nature, and they also responsible for getting back and forth on the surface of the HDL cholesterol to carry out maximum number of unused cholesterols from the generalized or the peripheral tissues back to the liver. So they are considered good in nature. LDL cholesterols have predominantly apolipoprotein B100, because of virtue of which they are responsible for sending most of the cholesterol into the peripheral tissues. And VLDL and chylomicrons, these are basically type of lipoproteins which are responsible for sending or distributing the cholesterols to the peripheral tissues, skeletal muscles, adipose tissues to some extent. Hope you find this video satisfactory. Thank you so much for watching.